All right, we are here with my brother, Josh Emmett. Josh, thanks for coming on the podcast. You live one of the most unique lives of anyone in my circle of fighting and just your professionalism and your craft of what you do. I don't have anyone else in my circle that does what you do. World ranked prize fighter. But I always like to start the podcast of who you are to me. And you are one of the toughest, you are the toughest guy I know. You live that. And it's been so impressive. When the times that we get to meet up, there's always something going on. You don't talk about it unless I bring it up, and you go and you stick to your craft and you just keep persevering, and you have this level of resilience that is just it's a superpower. And I'm sure you're aware of it, but it is so impressive into whether it's setbacks in your career, personal life, whatever it is, you stick to the plan and keep moving forward. And it's truly impressive. Not sure if you are fully aware of it or how you view it, but it's a superpower.
Cool. Thank you. It's great to be here. You got an awesome setup here. And of course the plunge facility is amazing. And I'm excited for this.
Awesome, man. Well, we haven't really caught up since your fight with Calvin Kattar. We were out in Austin, big night, awesome fight. Didn't get to see you after. How's life since that fight?
Yes, everything's going well. I went in there to get my hand raised, and I did exactly that. I'm grateful for all the support, all the friends and family that came out to Austin, and just support me and cheer me on. And it was amazing, man. That new Moody Center in Austin, Texas that
place is incredible.
It was awesome, and the sound and the crowd was it was truly amazing. And it's I could definitely, I was feeding off the energy. And from the get-go when they were booing us, I was like, just give us a few minutes. The next round we'll pick it up. But it was fun, just all around. Austin, the people are so kind and truly just genuine people. And then obviously we got to travel around and check out all the barbecue spots and eat our way through town. And but everything's been going great. I'm just back to my normal routine. We did a few little things. Vanessa and I we're in the process of building my mom a house in our backyard, and that's been just wild, but it's every single day. They start at 6:30 and they go all day, but it's cool to see that process kind of come along. And just back to the grind, I guess you could say.
I always see your life is these very it's distinct sprints. It's you have 12 weeks of camp, and you're all in, and it's so focused. And then I feel I always see you right on the outside of camp. Yeah. And then you're there's a kind of a calmness, diagnosing what's next, working on a few other things, and then you go back in, and it's super, super focused into fight camp. And so I feel right now you're kind of in the calm before the storm into what's next and what's coming up for you.
Yeah, exactly. And I feel with every time, I'm so disciplined and it's regimented. And I feel I talk to my wife, Vanessa, I feel we have a boring life, because when I am in camp, I'm it's the exact same thing. It's not the exact same meals, but pretty much it's I eat at the same time every day. I eat the same stuff. I have the same practices, and it's just this constant, I work all day doing the same thing and go to sleep, wake up, do it again, repeat it. For, you're saying 8 to 12 weeks, just focused on, a certain goal that I'm trying to achieve in my next opponent. And it's getting me one step closer to becoming a world champion. So I'm just, that featherweight title is always in my mind. I'm just chasing that. And then I have these opponents and these just stepping stones, whatever you want to call them. I'm just it's just another person right in front of me. I've been fighting. I've been competing my whole life, whether it's personally, whether it's my MMA career. And it's, but it's just so repetitive, but I love it. It's just what I'm chasing, just this dream of mine that I had for, I feel over almost 2 decades now. I've had this dream, and it's kind of surreal that I'm living it now. And I don't really, I don't know, I just because I'm in it, I don't really see. I don't zoom out. I don't see from the outside, But it's like, but my friends and family and my wife and everything, like they see everything, and I'm just going through the process. So when I do talk to you or I talk to my wife, and they're like, "You've accomplished a lot. You've done, things that people can't even achieve." I'm like, I'm the third ranked person in the world in the featherweight division. I guess when I hear that from other people, I'm like, oh, okay. But since I'm just going through it, I don't know. I'm never content with things. I'm like, maybe something's wrong with me because I'm like, I'm not content until I become a world champion. Then I probably still won't be content. It's a weird feeling.
What fuels it? Is it outside noise sometimes? Because you've always been kind of doubted, or the dark horse, or like, is it your own drive within you? Like, what keeps that fire burning?
I think it's just what I'm trying to achieve for my family and stuff, and just set us up and not have to worry about a lot of things. I came from, nothing really. It's like,
can you kind of say your backstory? Like what's childhood, like what, I know a bit about it, but I don't know really like what your origin story was there.
Yeah, it was just my mom was a single mother. She raised my older brother and I, and life was tough. But it's some of the stuff like I don't really talk about too much, just because I feel like everyone has a story. Everyone, and I don't do it to like, I don't want anyone feeling sorry for me. There's no like, I don't know. It's just different. But so it was tough. My mom worked 2 jobs. She did everything she possibly could to, just provide for my brother and I, you know what I mean? Like put food on the table, pay rent. Like sometimes she had like $100 a week, and that was for like food and, our fun activities. And the things that we would do is like younger kids, like she would take us to the birdcage theaters. I don't know if you remember those. Those
totally.
were the dollar movies. So it's like we could go see a movie for $1. That was like our fun outing, but we couldn't go to the concessions. We couldn't like get soda or popcorn or candy. But it was still fun, And my mom, she cooked everything from scratch. She was just she's a naturopath, and
so that's where you got like the health and wellness and just like the focus and
everything.
Nutrition and
everything, just like all the Eastern medicine and stuff like that. And she was, I was raised that way. So
where did she get that? Where did she discover that? Because that was, what was this, back in the 80s and 90s?
Yeah.
Like where did that's a very rare thing.
So my mom grew up, it was like 90 minutes south of Chicago in a small town of Chatsworth, Illinois. And, there's not a whole lot to do around there. So it's like all my mom and all her sisters, my aunts, they got out when they were 18, but then all my uncles, they still stuck around and lived there. But my mom wanted to be a nurse and just help people. So I'm really not sure where she got all this, but she wanted to just like give back to people and help people. And then she went a different route. And then she was doing massage, and then she was doing she was just helping people. She wanted to be a naturopath, and so she studied and she's done so many classes and certifications and things like that. And it was just something that she believed in, and she started first and foremost with herself, and then obviously my older brother and I. And at the time, like, we didn't have any processed stuff in our house. Like, we didn't have soda, nothing. And I was like, from a young kid, I was like, Mom, like, can we get like something, some chips, some soda, but nothing. And then I'm so grateful now, because she's always right with certain things. And I used to think it was kind of crazy. I was like, are you sure? But then fast forward 10, 20 years, and then people catch on to these certain things. And like, oh, this is horrible for you. And I'm like, wow, my mom was right. She's been doing this my entire life. Like, I only went to the doctors if I needed a physical or like an x-ray, if we thought something was like broken. Other than that, she'd be going to, South Sac and going to the Asian markets and making up all these like Chinese concoctions if I was sick, or teas or certain things, and using herbs and stuff like that, like my whole life. Like,
so she was into preventative care before that was even really a concept.
Oh yeah, way before. Yeah, way before. With so many things, and she's always ahead of the curve. It's truly amazing. I'm like, so now when she says certain stuff that like, she's like, this isn't good, like long term, I'd tell Vanessa, I'm like, she's probably right. Wait in like 10 years, like they're going to come out with this, or everyone's going to be talking about it, and it'll be kind of more mainstream.
Do you still lean on her? Because I know you have like a dietitian, nutritionist that you work with for camps and everything. Do you still go to your mom for certain like questions on stuff?
Yeah, no, I definitely do. Like I always have her input, and I'm just curious to what she thinks of certain things. But I do have like my whole team, like dietitians and therapists and doctors and coaches. So I lean on them heavily. But then I'm always curious of my mom's opinions on certain things.
That's something that's ever since I've gotten to know you, like the thing I'm so fascinated with. You have one of the biggest weight cuts in all the UFC. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah, I would say I've done like the DEXA scans and for like my muscle mass and bone density and everything like that, it's definitely up there.
What do you walk around at, and so featherweight, for everyone listening, it's 145 pounds. What do you walk around weight-wise in the world?
So what I used to do in the past, like I would just, I love food. I love to eat and enjoy myself. So I would do stuff that maybe isn't the best for being like a professional athlete, one of the top guys in the world. I would just like, after a fight, just go crazy, and I can get up as high as 185, 190. I could go heavier if I wanted to, but it's really not healthy. And then I'd cut down to 45s. But after fights and working with my dietitians and stuff, they do not want me getting too out of control, so I can have some fun for like a few weeks and then get back on a diet. But even then, I'm still.
What are you weighing right now?
Probably like high 70s, 78 or so. So it's still a good like 30, 32, 33 pound cut, because we get that pound allowance, unless it's for a title fight. So, but it's still.
Oh, there's no pound allowance for title fights.
No, it's scratch weight, so it's 145 or below. Ooh. But then right now you get that pound allowance when you're not fighting for the title. But my last two fights, I wanted to make that championship weight, and so
just to get your body ready.
So I made 145, for the Ige fight, and then obviously I drink a little before I hop on the scale, and then even for the Cater fight, I got down 44.9. So
why do you drink a little right before you hop on the scale?
Just because, like I don't want to come in too light. I have that pound allowance, but just for me knowing that I'm going to fight for the title eventually, and it's inevitable, I just wanted to get my body used to that extra pound, because when you come into it and say I'm down to like 150, those last like 4 or 5 pounds are so hard. And as you get closer, it's like every, half a pound, it is so tough.
Is that 4 to 5 coming off that last 24 hours? Or when is that 4 to 5 coming off? Like what is the window? I think, because once I learned about fighting, like, first, what do you weigh in at 145? Mm-hmm. What are you weighing the night of the fight, which is the next night, right?
Yeah, so usually now we'll weigh in Friday mornings at
so it's about 36 hours from fight time?
Exactly. So it'll be like 9 to 11. You have a 2-hour window to make your weight. I'll make that weight, and then the next night, like I was fighting is like 172, 24 to 36 hours later.
25, 27 pounds heavier.
And I can go up like instantly from that night from that morning, Friday morning till Friday night, I would put on like 30 pounds. And then obviously like by using the restroom and stuff like that, it like kind of comes out, then I'd be like, high 60s to low 70s the next night. But this last fight, just because I was maintaining my weight, I was actually the lightest that I had ever been. I think I fought at 165.
Did you feel that difference?
No, I actually felt better. And listening to my dietitians, they wanted me to be a little lighter just because this was a 5-round fight. Just like, so I'm not like taxing my body too much with like a drastic weight cut and then having to go a little longer. But I'm always in great shape. I've been training for 5-round fights my entire career, because on the regional scene, I used to be a champion. I would fight 5-round fights. And so it's like, it's nothing new to me, you know.
Were you fighting 155 before and then you went down to 145?
Yep.
When you first entered the UFC, it was 55, right?
Yeah.
What caused the shift there?
My goal was always to fight at 145 in the UFC, but then on the regional scene, I was undefeated. I was a lightweight champion for an organization here in Sacramento, West Coast Fighting Championship. And then I got into the UFC at 155, and I was winning fights. So it's like, if it's not broken, don't fix it. So when I finally lost a split decision fight. It was my third fight in the UFC. I feel like I got hometowned. But I'm grateful for that loss. Like, I'm truly grateful for that loss, because if I would have won that, I would have been 12-0 still. I would have just stayed at 55s. Why would I drop down? But then since that happened, I just kind of reevaluated things, and I was like, okay, now's my, now I should drop down. And then I'm happy I did, because I had one fight at 45s in the UFC, and then, got a huge opportunity against a third-ranked guy in the world on a short notice, and then knocked him out. Yeah, yep. I leapfrogged the entire division, and just kind of put me on the map. And so that's why, even for like setbacks or certain things, it's like, I'm grateful for everything, because I would not be in the position I am if I didn't like go through some of these, like, these. Just
how did you get that perspective? It's I sit across the table from everyone. It's always like gratitude. People take on challenges. Like, it's not a failure. It's a growth opportunity. Has that been you since day one, or is that something you've developed over time? Yeah,
it's kind of, I feel like I've had this, like, I don't know. It's weird too. Even like thinking about things as a young child, I was always like, I always thought I was going to, I'm here to do something great. Like, I'm going to do something good. I'm going to be, known. And like, I always wanted to be a pro athlete or a cop, but I was thinking basketball and all these things, not fighting. And then I had this desire and belief that it was all just going to work out for me. And then, as I got older too, and bad things would happen, or like, a door would close, it would just lead me to another door that would open. So it's like, you need to have doors closed on you for other doors to open. And so I just had this belief that everything happens for a reason, and it always leads me to a bigger and better opportunity. So when things don't go my way, I'm just like, it wasn't meant to be. I kind of like shrug it off. But I did learn this as I kind of, got a little older.
Was there one door specifically that closed that like really showed you like how opportunity outside of the path that you were on?
Yeah, even something like, say, okay, I wanted to be a police officer. I was for SAC PD. I passed everything, the oral boards, literally everything. And one of the guys said, just sit back and wait for the academy. Or I was basically going to get into the academy. He was saying I just had to pass one more thing, and then they had budget cuts. This is back in like, I don't know, maybe 2012 or something. So they had the budget cuts, and I was done. They weren't accepting any new applicants and stuff like that. And then looking back at that, I was so upset. Like, I was so pissed. But I'm grateful, because if I would have got into the academy, I would have been a cop. I wouldn't have been pursuing, and I was already pursuing this dream of mine, fighting. I would have given this up. Like, I would have completely given this up and went that route. You know what I mean? And so I was grateful for that. Not at the moment. I was so upset. But that completely changed like the projection or just of my life. You know what I mean? Because I could have been a police officer now. Who knows? I still would have probably had regrets, or like, I wish I would have done this, or I could have, who knows? But my wife is like the driving factor of that stuff too. She's always like, she doesn't want me to have any regrets. So she's always like, just keep on going. And if this doesn't happen, then we'll reevaluate and we'll figure something else out. So she's even the one that I was going to hang up. I was going to be done with fighting too, because I was like undefeated.
When was that? In the West, when you were
in the West Coast? Yeah, because I was 9-0 at the time. It was after I fought Christos Yagos.
Yep. And
I almost got in the UFC like a few times. I almost got on the Ultimate Fighter a few times. And then Dana and the matchmakers were like, win one more. And I thought I was never going to get in. And so I told her, like, I'm done. And then she's the one that said, give it one more year. If you do not get in the UFC, then we'll figure it out.
Then you had the quick call up, right?
Yeah, 4-day notice. So I was back to training again. Like, okay, I'll listen to her. And then I was training, and then 5 days I got a call to make my UFC debut in the Netherlands. And so I went home packed, flew across the world to Amsterdam, cut weight, and beat a tough guy.
That was a hell of a fight. I remember you broke your bone was sticking out of your pinky.
Yeah, it was my ring finger. It was just compound fracture, and that's something I had to hide from hide from the ref so I can continue to fight because I was winning the fight and there was nothing that
they would have called that fight.
Oh, they would have stopped it and he would have won, and I was dominating. So I'm like, I don't care if I lost the finger. There was nothing getting in my way of getting my hand raised.
There's a lot to unpack. I mean, I want to hop into Vanessa as your like support system. We'll get there. I also just want people, I don't think, realize how much you've endured from your injuries. I mean, fighting's a ruthless career in sport. Like, people have injuries all the time. You've just had them to a level that maybe it's because I know you and I know the inside of what's gone on with them. Then your first fight, your ring finger sticking out in the final round. You're running around hiding your hand, just fighting with one hand, like getting out of the fight. You've had, the Jeremy Stevens fight of what you endured there, and the year layoff of, what was vertigo and complete. That was your second loss in your career. And then the thing that I always go to is like, to me, is the most epic story is your Shane Burgos fight. And, just reading it right here. So you had a complete tear of your ACL. This is on your left knee, right? Complete tear of your ACL, a partial tear of the MCL, a Baker's cyst rupture, which involves a pre-existing condition that leaks fluid into the calf, a focal impact fracture of the femur, cartilage damage, and severe swelling around the joint. So that happened, and that happened in your first minute.
Like 19 seconds.
19 seconds into a 15-minute fight. Like that. Like, just anyone listening, like, all of that. I remember watching and seeing your leg kind of buckle, and I was like, that looked like something's off. You knew, right? That like immediately, 19 seconds in, you just tore your ACL?
Yeah, I knew something was seriously wrong, and since like the pain was on the outside, I just know like ACL, MCL, like outside, inside. So I knew it was something to do with that, and it kept buckling, and there was no stability, and the pain was excruciating just from everything else that had happened. But there goes that desire and that will to win.
What was that moment like? Like, what? I don't know. Like, I hear that, and I'm immediately like, how do I get out of this? Yeah. Like, obviously, I'm not going to get in a cage and fight someone. That's not what I do. Yeah. But to a level of, you see athletes all the time, they tear their ACL. It's like they're out. Like, it's done. Yeah. There's no option.
Yeah.
And you chose a different route. What were you actually feeling in that moment that you did that? And what was that 15 minutes like? Like, can you just play by play of what? I just think that's one of the most rare things a human's ever experienced on this planet. Like, in a cage fight with a torn ACL, like, I don't know, maybe no one ever has. I don't know. What was that like? Yeah,
no, it was the first thing. I knew something was seriously wrong, and then I'm like talking to myself in my head. You know what I mean? Like, it's like,
what are you saying?
You have that one voice that's saying like, okay, you can kind of like give up and stuff like that, or like, oh, this is like basically give up. Then I have the other voice saying like, I was like, suck it up, quit being I don't want to swear on your podcast, but yeah, but I was just talking to myself, and I was just like, suck it up. I looked at the clock, there was 14 and a half minutes left. I said, when you get your hand raised, you'll be happy. And then I'm thinking like about finances, you know what I mean? Because the UFC, you show up, you get paid a certain check. You win, you get that same check. So you win, you get 2 checks. You lose, you get 1 check. So that's the first thing that pops in my mind.
So you're thinking your family, you're thinking
everything.
Like actual bank account in that moment.
Exactly. And I was already, this was like a 13-month, 13-month layoff. I had just come back from something else, and that was right when COVID had started.
I remember.
So I was super nervous about, I'm like, no one knew what was going on with COVID. So I was like, okay, how am I going to get paid? And then I was grateful for Dana White, the president of the UFC, that he was like, he started a certain protocol that basically every, NBA and football, they started following. So going back to the fight, I'm thinking about finances. I'm thinking about pain. 14 and a half minutes, I'll be happy. If I did give up and the injuries, like what you just read, came out 2 days later, that would be okay. Everyone would understand that, like, oh, wow, yeah, people can't fight like this. But me knowing that I would have gave up, I was like, I can't live with that, because I would be the only person that really knows what happened in there, And so I was just like, I was thinking about just a whole lot of things in my head while I'm trying to fight one of the top guys in the world, while I'm dealing with this crazy injury. It was just, kind of a roller coaster of emotions. And then as each minute went on, and after the first round, I came back into the cage, and my boxing coach Joey knew, and Danny and Chris, like they knew something was seriously wrong. Like you can listen to like Joey, as soon as that happened, 19 seconds in, you hear him, he's like, fuck, like he knew my knee was messed up. And then I told them what was going on. Yeah, after the round was over, I'm sitting in the corner, I told them, oh, my knee's fucked. And they're like, oh, we know. And then just with me, I'm like,
did you switch to southpaw or like?
No, I kept fighting, and then I realized, because I'm Burgos is a tough guy. Like he's an awesome person. He's an awesome fighter. He's a phenomenal fighter. And so like I'm hitting him hard, and people are like, oh, you got to give him credit for his chin. But then I realized, when you throw a right hand, all your weight is distributed to the front leg. My ACL was gone, so it kept buckling. So then in the third round, that's when I switched to southpaw, and I start throwing overhand lefts and straight lefts, because I can really like sit on those punches and put all my weight on my lead leg now, which is my right. And then I was dropping him. You know what I mean? And I'm like, I hit way harder with my right hand, but
I just had dropping him with the left.
With the left, I dropped him twice in the third round. Once I switched my stance, because I could really sit on that punch. But it's like I just had to kind of adjust on the fly, and literally take it minute by minute, round by round. And then I was getting that much closer. So after the first round, I was like, okay, 10 more minutes. And then the second round, I'm like, 5 more minutes. Like I'm already more than halfway through, So I'm just telling myself this. But then you have those weird voices that we all have, It's like it's like a good and a bad one, and it's like I'm just having these conversations with myself, and then I just basically the other voice is just like shut up, like we're gonna get this win, we're gonna do whatever we have to do to get our hand raised. And that's always like my objective. Like I'm willing to go through hell and endure anything as long as I get the win, and it gets me that much closer to a world title.
I've never doubted that more. Like as I've gotten to know you, like everyone says, like I'll go to the dark place.
Yeah.
Like I truly believe you when you're like, you'll out dark someone into the space that you have to go in the fight.
Or you see people that like you learn a lot about yourself fighting when you actually get into a fight. So you'll see some people on like a regional scene, they'll pad their record. They're constantly beating these guys, and then they get into the UFC or another big organization, and they get into a fight for the first time. And there's two options. You're either going to kick that door down and do whatever. Like for me, I'll do anything to I'll never quit. I'll never cower away, or people will give up. You know what I mean? And that's one thing that I'm like, you will never see me give up. Like someone has to literally catch me in something or put me away. Like I see it from time and time again when people are just covering up, and the ref is saying, he's warning them, because basically they're going to stop the fight. Or I feel like someone wants a way out. Like if someone does that to me, I can see them starting to break, and then they start doing that. I'm like, okay, you want a way out? I'll give you your way out. But
you can sense it.
Oh, 100%. I did that in wrestling, like playing sports and wrestling, especially like these one-on-one, like individual sports, or it's something completely different, because you have another person in front of you trying to hurt you. Like you could seriously get injured. And it's like one of my mindset, I'm like, I'm not going to let anyone embarrass me in front of the world, especially my friends and family, even with losses and stuff. I know people are always going to be there to support me, like my close friends and family, but just deep down inside, I still would feel like, I let everybody down. And so that's what I'm really trying to avoid.
Is that like, I've heard you talk about fighting as it's just a job. Mm-hmm. Like you're very much like, this is my job. I have a job. I have a company. Like show up to work. Is that accurate?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%.
How you view fight. I mean, so what is a fight night like? That's such a rare experience to walk out to a crowd of, we're at the Moody Center, 20,000 people. It's electric.
Yeah.
Like it is the thing. Your music's going. I've also heard you say like you don't really enjoy fighting. Mm-hmm. Is that like accurate? Is it like what? I'm so fascinated with this. Like it's a career. It's something you do. You're really good at it. What do you love about it? And what is a real struggle and challenge for you about it?
Yeah, no, you're right on everything, so it's like the fight itself, like while I'm fighting, like I'm not having fun in there, like I don't like to fight, but I am good at it. And I like the lifestyle. You know, I like the lifestyle because, like you said earlier, I can bust my ass for 8 to 12 weeks. I'm so disciplined and focused. I don't have, you know, someone over my shoulder like telling me what to do. I don't have to come like report at a certain time, but I do treat it just like work. So I go in there, I clock in when I have a practice, and I clock out after practice. And then I do the same thing with a fight. But it's I don't know, like it's I also feel like I've been an athlete and wrestled my entire life, and everything that I've done has led me to this point. And I've been a fan of the UFC. I've been a fan of martial arts since a young child as well. And so it's like I always thought I could do this, and then I'm actually doing it, and I continue to like kind of impress myself I impress myself just because I just keep, you know, I set goals. I'm very goal oriented. So I just constantly, I'm setting all these goals, and then I'm just working every single day to get a little closer to achieving the ultimate goal. And it's financially, you know, it's like you said, I'm good at it, and I can go in there and make a big payday. Not as much as I think we should get paid for, but still, like, since I've been winning fights, as long as you're winning fights, you're doing pretty well, and it's just like the everything that I'm a part of, and you know, the better I do in fighting, the better everything else is going to do. And
I think of it like business to an extent. It's like you're actually over a year, let's say a normal year, if you fight 2 fights, maybe 3, that's 30, 45 minutes that you're actually fighting over that whole year. And there's so many other things that go to it. So it sounds like that's a part that's like, you got to do it. It's a part you got to show up for, but it's not your favorite part of the whole thing. Where the rest of it is, you know, there are a lot of, you do like the lifestyle. You are staying fit. You're training. You're getting to be around people that you care about. Like, you're getting a lifestyle to go travel and do all these things. It's like, I think of owning my own business. It's like there are parts that I just don't enjoy about it. But it's a part that I got to show up. Like, whether it's, for me, I don't love the hard conversations with some of my employees sometimes. It's like a thing that is a challenge for me. But big picture, there's so much that comes with it. And those hard conversations are actually the biggest growth moments that I get to have. Sure, in the cage, those are some of your biggest, like, you get to go to places that you can't push yourself to. Like, you can't manufacture that. That's a level that you've learned about yourself that none of us really get to go into an environment and learn about ourselves.
And you're saying it's like work hard, play hard, you know what I mean? So I have those 8 to 12 weeks of like just nothing but discipline and just like getting closer to that task at hand, and then I can travel the world. Like, traveling is a huge hobby of my wife and I. So it's like, we travel, we're big foodies, we do all this type of stuff. But even like going back to like the fight night, it's a wild experience. Like, it goes back to like gladiator times. It feels like I'm going in the Coliseum. Like, I'm at the hotel. We report, we hop on a bus, they drive us to the arena underneath. We go to our little room that we're just getting our hands wrapped and warming up. It's like almost like the gladiator times where they
hear the crowd outside of it.
Yeah,
like, you can hear the roar.
It's like rumbling, and it's like where they stage the animals and the gladiators in these little like cells. You know what I mean? That's where we are backstage, in, you know, under the arena. And then it's like they come in and they're like, "You're up in 5 minutes," and then we go into this holding tank basically, and we're just in the hallway, and then the cameras are on the production. They're like 5, 4, they're counting down, boom, and the lights go on, and then it's like this show, this persona, not persona, because I'm always the same, but it's just like, no matter what, like, the thing with fighting is there's so much that goes into it, like you're saying. So maybe I'm fighting for 30 to 45 minutes if you get 2 to 3 a year, but I'm training. It's a full-time job every single day, Monday through Saturday, possibly 6 to 8 hours a day. Sometimes there's overtime, you know, on your outside running or lifting or whatever you have to do, diet. And then I'm walking out, and it's just, the fans are insane, you know, like, they're literally just going nuts. And it's like, it's really wild if you think about it. Like, I know it's for entertainment purposes, like, they're entertained, but for us going through it, for our family, our friends, like, it's not like the most fun thing. Like, when I'm fighting, people are just kind of like kind of silent in their chairs. Like, people that know me, like, it's not fun for my mom, it's not fun for my wife, my best friends.
Like, I saw Vanessa at the last fight, and she's in the back.
Yeah,
you know, she was kind of sitting near us, but it's like, they're there.
Yeah.
But you could tell the look on their face, like how just wanting to get through it.
Yeah, because
it's like a bad dream. That's like, when is this going to end?
Because you don't know what's going to happen, man. You literally you don't know what's going to happen in there. And so it's like with my wife, she usually comes, she gets there like, she doesn't enjoy the fights at all. So she gets there, I don't know, 20 minutes before I'm supposed to fight. And then she could have sat cage side, like where you can touch the cage almost right there. But she doesn't like that. She's like, I can't sit there. And then I'm like, it's okay. So then she kind of sat in the back. She went with my dietitian, and then she kind of walks around, paces around while I'm fighting and looks at the screen and stuff like that. She wants to be there just to know what's going on, but it is not a good time for her. And then afterwards, it's like the aftermath where people don't see like what we go through. Then we're carted off after we went, or not carted off, walked out. We see the doctor, get checked out by him, and then go to another room, and I'm getting stitched up. And that's when everything really starts to set in, and it's like
adrenaline's coming down.
Yeah.
You're actually feeling what
a lot more. Yeah. And it's just like, it just feels like I just got into this massive car wreck, and even going into the fight, I think about it. I always tell people, I'm like, imagine just hopping into a sports car and flooring it into a tree with no seatbelt on. You don't know what's going to happen. You hope for the best. That's what I feel like going into the fight. And then afterwards, it's just depending on the fight. It could be with the ACL. That was an 18-month layoff. I worked my ass off every single day. I was doing 2 PT sessions a day, strength and conditioning, eating right. It was harder than a fight camp because it was an 18-month fight camp, trying to get better and get back to an elite level, which people don't understand. And then it's even after the fight, like this last one, I just had a big cut, so I got stitched up and things like that. But you feel like hell, like literally from your toes to the top of your head, all your limbs, like every joint, muscle fiber in your entire body is just like, I can't even explain it. It's like hopping into a car and just rolling down a mountain. You know what I mean? It's like, and maybe I wouldn't be in as much pain as I am after the fights, but it's a wild experience. And then I just have to work on recovery first and foremost. And that's why I always take, I usually take like 4 to 6 weeks off after a fight. I don't go in the gym. I don't train. Like I'll do little things. Like I'll eat good. Do you
float, or do you do like recovery massage, things like the very kind of yin style practices, as opposed to like,
Yeah, and that's one of the things, especially as I get a little older, like recovery is such a huge part of my career. So it's like, even if I have a practice, I'll do a thing to like match that. So it's floating, it's massage, chiropractor, it literally everything, PT. And then afterwards I'm doing multiple sessions. Like, so for the last like 4 or 5 weeks, I've been in the hyperbaric chamber. I'm doing cryo, floating. I'm doing a little bit of everything, you know what I mean? Just so I can accelerate the healing process, and then I'll get back into practice, ease in, and then, hopefully start another fight camp and repeat the whole process.
Back on the career, like this is a job. Curious on that, where it's like, some people love it sounds like you love what you do. You're grateful for
100%.
But it's also like a job. And is that sometimes when you come up against, you've had setbacks in your career. Mm-hmm. Like we've talked about it, 18 months off with a torn ACL, the Jeremy Stevens fight. What was that? A year off with vertigo?
Like 13 months.
How many months did you have vertigo? I know that was.
Yeah, it was like, probably like 8-9 months.
8-9 months vertigo. Yeah. Like these are, this isn't like a week. No. This is like full-fledged, your life's on hold, focused on this. Mm-hmm. Have you ever, like, the fact that it's a job, some people run into issues in their career. Mm-hmm. It's like, I'm going to find a new career. Like, that's what most people do. If they had some level of that in their own, whatever they were working on. Mm-hmm. Have you ever, during those setbacks, thought about switching careers? Or has it always been, I know what my task at hand is and what my ultimate goal is?
Yeah, so I've never thought about like switching careers. Like during some of these moments, don't get me wrong, it was super challenging. And at some point, like maybe some type of like depression, if it were a thing, I'm not sure. Like I definitely had some dark times in some of these injuries and setbacks in the past. Like I really had to overcome that. But I go back to this belief of, I know with time it's going to get better. And I don't know, I just feel it, like I just feel it inside my body. Like I will get better. I'll become a world champion. I'll do these things that I set out to do. So as far as switching stuff, no, I just knew it would take a little longer than I anticipated. I thought I would have got here a lot sooner, but man, I'm going back to the gratitude. I'm so grateful for every setback because I feel like it's just part of my story, and I know the end of my story is with victory, and we're almost there. So I'm like, I'm just going to keep on pushing until I get there. And when I do want something, I'm obsessed with it. And that's like all I think about. I can't like turn my mind off at night and stuff, especially in a fight camp. It's so different, because I'm like focused and obsessed with my opponent. And just, if I wake up in the middle of the night, I'm like, oh, I should be doing this because, you know what I mean? Like trying to get the edge on him. But it's a wild thought process too.
It's insane to think about. It's like, when you talked about depression, whether it's depression you felt or just the dark times that you've been in the valleys. What have been your practice? Have you doubled down on certain practices to get you out of it? What are the things that you would credit to kind of keep you going?
And that's like my support system. I feel like I truly have one of the biggest and best support systems around, and I don't even know what other people's support system looks like, but I guarantee it's not like mine. I have such great friends and just everyone. They're just amazing people, and I could call anyone. I don't have enough fingers and toes on my body to count the people that would, if I call, they'll be there in a heartbeat, which I know some people don't have that, you know what I mean? But they know I would be there in a heartbeat if they asked me to do something too. And then going back to my wife, it's like I can express certain things, how I'm feeling. I also work with a mind coach that he's like, I used to not talk about him a lot because I felt like that was like my secret weapon, you know what I mean? But it's he's very selective who he works with and things like that. And we have a goal that we're trying to achieve, and we're so close. And we've been working for 6 years. He really helps me a lot because especially in camp, we talk a lot, and we go through all these. It's like hypnotherapist actually. He puts me through these deep trances and a lot of visualization, and just he gives me homework and things that I'm constantly doing. And it's.
I mean, with him, I've noticed over the years you've gotten much more definitive in your language. So it's like even in this podcast, it's like you speak as if the future's already happened. Like when I'm a champion, when I beat him, like these are things that are done. Like they're already like, in my opinion, looking on the outside, it's like you've already tasted championship. Now it's just the act of completing that. Is that in the area of what you're working on with this mindset coach?
Pretty much. It's like I've already seen, like we've played out so many things like in our like sessions, over the years, and it's like I feel like I've already seen it, you know what I mean? Like I've already seen it. So now I'm just waiting, I'm just waiting till I get that call from Dana. Hey, you're fighting so-and-so for the title or for the interim title. And then, I'll beat them and then unify the belt and then beat them. And, then I'll set new goals, what I want to do after I become a world champion. But yeah, he's helped me so much.
How'd you find him?
He actually reached out to me after my first fight. He
with the finger.
Yeah, with the finger. He saw something in me, and the way I was hiding that, and he kind of knew what was going on, and the way I was speaking about stuff. He kept saying like how all I talked about was what are you doing here in the UFC? World champion. Like he just. Maybe something he picked up from my language and just seeing like what I was willing to go through. So he reached out. He works with a lot of special forces. He works with world champions, and he said, if you're ever interested in this, I'm willing to help you out and do some stuff. And so I was like, yeah.
Did you start immediately with him?
Yeah. I said, yeah. Like, how do we start this process? And then we kind of started working ever since my first fight in the UFC, and I've been in the UFC for over for 6.5 years. So it's like we've been working the whole time except my debut. And then I've learned so much from him, and he's a friend of mine, a mentor of mine. He's just a fascinating person. Like it's
that's so fascinating.
Yeah.
Is it heightened when you're in camp?
Oh yeah, big time.
And you're like way more focused with him, and then out of camp, is it a little less that you guys are
Same thing. We still work on stuff, and especially now we're just working on a lot more things. It's getting a little. I don't know, just because I'm so close. So I have homework that I'm doing all these
some of the homework?
Different type of stuff. Just certain things that like I'm kind of like I don't know if you probably wouldn't like me to talk about it, but just certain things. Like I'm like listening to certain stuff. I'm constantly, he has me doing these like visualization, like patterns, and just like I don't know, it's kind of, it's different, but it's,
sounds like it's working.
Yeah, no, it's
And
definitely,
you've how you speak about things. It's like, you've brought me into your journey, and that's something I've like felt so grateful for. Like I feel like it's not extra pressure to you or anything. It's like I believe what you're saying. Into like, it's like the world hasn't quite. It's like cool to see now as people are starting to see like, oh, yes, you deserve to fight for the championship. And it's like, but you like spoke that into existence, and obviously you fought for it and put it into existence. But it was like nothing was given to you in this journey, and you just kept speaking it before anyone even believed you. And I think that's that to me, if you could bottle that up, that's like the quintessential, like we're all challenged and like we want to do things that is maybe not possible in our current situation. But like speaking it into existence is so impressive, man.
I feel like you have to speak like what you want too. Like people wake up every day and they're like, oh, I'm so tired of this and that. And then maybe your subconscious, you start believing these type of things. Like, why don't you start speaking, like not how you feel, but what you want, So I do a lot of that stuff too. So no matter what, like I speak and I say it out loud too, like what I want. And then it comes true. Like I'm not, after a fight, I could be, oh, I'm so sore, all this, everything hurts, which it does. But then I'm not thinking about that. I'm like, you can start thinking like, oh, I feel great. Start even feeling like shit. I can wake up, oh, I feel great, and I'll just keep telling myself that. And then eventually, in a few days, I will feel great again. And so I literally, I speak like what I want, not how I feel at the moment too. I do that a lot, It
takes a lot of honesty to actually know what you want. I think in this current world, it's like, at least for me, I've always known what I don't want. Yeah. Which is like more in the, not the definitive. It's like I'm just avoiding what I don't want. Where I see you speak what you want, and that creates like a real path forward. And what are some of the things right now that I have a good idea of them, but what are that you want in this life?
Man, I want, like, at the end of the day, I want to take care of my family, and that's why going back to, we're building this house for my mom right now, and yeah, it's just like I want to. Yeah, there's a lot that I want, but it's just like I want a healthy family. I want a family. I want everyone to be happy. I want like everyone to be taken care of. I want to, that's why I'm willing to like work so hard now to maybe after my career is done, then I can just enjoy it with my loved ones and my friends and my family. We can travel, we can do a lot of different things. Like, so that's why I'm like willing to just like kind of just, even if I am putting my body through the ringer or whatever, it's all for a purpose and just for people to be taken care of and just be happy. That's what we have, one life. Life is too short and everything kind of goes by so fast. And even while I'm pursuing this, I feel like I've missed out on weddings, birthdays, like all these special occasions and stuff like that. I have to be somewhat selfish in order to achieve greatness. But it's, so not that I have to make up for anything, but, it's just, I don't know, it's just kind of all of like a purpose why I'm doing it, but then I just want to enjoy everything and with my loved ones, and not have to worry about a lot of, I don't know, just
fighting's definitely a vehicle to create, like, and you're at that forefront where it's like you've fought a long time where you're getting not much to now you're on the cusp of like really, like you said, set
like
yourself
things
up.
Are like in reach, what I've been trying to achieve. And then like I said earlier, it's like I'll probably, when I win the title, it's like, will I be happy with that? I'll have to set new goals, and like I still probably won't be content. I'm like, it's kind of funny though, you know what I mean? Because I feel like it can always be better, I can always do better, and
it's a double-edged sword, man.
Yeah,
where it's like it drives you to be great, and there's like levels of peace that sometimes aren't found within that process.
Yeah,
that it's
because
totally
even with my fights, it's like I have this opponent, and I'm always like, I can't wait till the day after Sunday. I always say this, I can't wait till Sunday because I'm gonna get a win. We're gonna have some fun. We can eat. We can do this. I think I'm gonna have this like sense of relief, like just this pressure lifted off my shoulders. I fight, And then for a second it is, because then, you know, I'm always betting on myself. I'm always going all in. So I'm like, I'm banking on these 2 checks, and then the fight's over, and then I feel like it immediately starts over the process. Then I'm like, oh, what's next? You know, it's like going back to, I'm just not content because I still haven't reached what I set out to do. And then even Vanessa, she's like, can you just leave your phone like at home, or like for a few days, like turn it off, you know? But then it's wild. Like the way my brain is triggered or wired, it's just. Yeah.
What's the biggest like high of your journey so far as a fighter?
I'd probably have to say my debut, just because nothing can really beat that. Just because that was always a goal to fight in the UFC, and then the way that it went down, it's just 5-day notice flying to. That was really the first time out of the country, too.
Did you have a big cut you had to do for that, or were you kind of in camp mindset?
Yeah, I had I was fighting at 155, so I was like I probably had like 19, 20 pounds on a 5-day notice, but you know, it wasn't the end of the world, you know. So I flew over there with like the jet lag, and I didn't sleep at all either. So then that was a little more difficult with the weight cut, just because, you know, your cortisol levels are high. And then, but I was so excited just to be there. Like I was so happy, like, oh, I'm finally in the UFC, and everyone was counting me out at the time. Like no one knew who I was except like my coaches and teammates. They knew what I was going over there to do. Like they knew I'd win, but everyone else is like, oh, who's this guy? And it was just, it was fun. Like literally I did not sleep 1 hour for the 4 days I was there.
That's wild.
Not 1 hour, because it was complete opposite time changes and the jet lag. And then we were just up. So I was like, oh, let's go do this. Then I'm cutting weight during the day, and then I'm doing all these media obligations, and it was just fun for me. So I think I was just like on cloud 9, just getting there. And then the way that compound fracture happened, and I got the win. And then even my first UFC fight, I had like the worst hand injury in UFC history. And it's like, I didn't know at the time, like Twitter, my sister's like, you're trending on Twitter right now. I was like, what? Like, you know, I mean, just because of that, it was just kind of funny, like how everything played out. And it was amazing. So that was like, that's got to be my height. And then that kind of kicked off the traveling that Vanessa and I do, and like it ignited that hobby and that passion to do so. Because first time out of the country, we were going to fly back the next day, and I said, since we're here in the Netherlands, I said, can you call your boss and see if we can if you can have some time off? And they allowed her to. So we literally went to the train station, and we asked the lady at the desk, we're like, where's somewhere where we should go? And she's like, Berlin is fun. So we hopped on this train. We had a 5-hour train ride to Berlin, and we did all the tourist stuff. Had a blast out
Berlin's
there.
Awesome,
dude. It was amazing. And then we went back to Amsterdam for a few days, and then we ended up heading home. But we're like, this is so cool. Like, and all the food and the people, and just diving into like the culture and things like that. It just kind of kickstarted that. And I was like, I don't care if we can't even afford traveling. We're just going to put something on a credit card, and we're just going to do it, and then we'll figure out how to pay that off, you know. And it just started that, like, yeah, we love it so much. And then since then we've traveled the world, and I wouldn't have been able to do this without the UFC right now. Like we've done so much, you know, like bought our home, we're building my mom a house, we've traveled the world, we've done things that, like, literally I said that we dreamed of, and then we're actually doing it, you know. And it's been an awesome, like, process.
It's so cool to hear your gratitude for the whole thing. What's been your biggest challenge, or maybe, I guess, biggest valley that you've experienced as a, let's say, pro fighter?
Yeah, it'd probably be some of the I guess just the injuries in the past, you know what I mean? Just having to overcome all that adversity and just overcome that. Like, people don't understand, like, some of the things that I've gone through with the injuries.
Is there one that sticks out more than the other?
I don't know. It's all, like, I've had more than, like, even just, like, I've had surgeries on everything. Like, you know what I mean? Since I've been a pro, I had hand surgery for breaking my hand. I've had, on the other hand, a thumb surgery, elbow surgery, you know, like face surgery. Like, yeah, I had like all my orbitals were like completely shattered, broken, cheek broken, like a lot of different things, ACL, like so many things. But it's just coming back from that, because it's so much work to get back to the, like how I feel. It's hard. From the outside, people see me doing stuff and they're like, oh, you look great, you got a new knee. I'm like, no, but it's not like when I would jump and I feel like weightless, you know what I mean? And springy, like people just don't understand. Like I can still do things and make it look good. But this is just like going back in the past. I feel great now, but yeah, it was just challenging. I think even some of those 2 major injuries you talked about, like there was a lot of people, I don't think they'd ever come back from that. And there are people that have had that and they're still not fighting, you know, and I come back still at a relatively fast, turnaround, even for going through stuff like that. So it was just that. But then I feel like maybe that was all meant to happen, you know, because now I'm like all put together, I'm all strong. So when I do get into these big fights, that doesn't happen, you know. So I'm like, it was meant to be, you know, and I wouldn't change anything. Like I really wouldn't change anything, like the path I went, you know.
How did you get into, you were a wrestler, how did you get into MMA?
Yeah, I was always a fan of the sport, you know, and my best friend Johnny and I, we were watching the UFC back in '99, like when I was a freshman in high school on pay-per-view, and I always thought I was like, oh, I could do this, you know what I mean? And there's really nothing left for wrestling. I wrestled at junior college, I wrestled at the 4-year level. You know, you can train for the Olympics, and I've wrestled since I was a little kid, and I wasn't going to wrestle in the Olympics, you know. I wouldn't have made the Olympic team. And so I was like, I'm going to transition into fighting. And I'm lucky that Uriah opened this gym. You know, his gym in 2005, he opened Team Alpha Male. It was on I and 16th. I remember him coming into one of my Sac City College wrestling meets, and he was handing out flyers. And since I was like, I'm going to try this out after the season's up. So I went in there and signed up for a regular, you know, just membership to try it out. So that's kind of how the whole process started. It was super big, and I think it was like 2003 or maybe it was 2004 when it was the first Ultimate Fighter, and it was Stephan Bonner and Forrest Griffin. Like when they started fighting, and then that's what kind of put the UFC on the map, you know. But like me and my friend, we were watching this way before it was like mainstream, and I always thought I could do it. And then with Uriah coming in and handing out those flyers, that kind of, you know, ignited that and it started that, because without him doing that, like I don't think I would be fighting now, because I didn't have the money to go. There's no way I could go to a different state or city and pursue this dream of mine and work and do that full time. You know, I had so many people here in Sacramento, like we were staying in my mom's spare room still, or we had a little studio, Vanessa and I, or we were staying with our best friends, Johnny and Felice. And that's one of the biggest things too. I owe them so much, because when I graduated college and came back in 2010, they're like, just live with us so you can pursue this dream of yours. And I worked at a group home on Saturday, Sunday, 14-hour shifts, so I could train full time during the week. And they saw potential on me. And you know, like I wouldn't be here if it wasn't for my support system that I always go back to. Like I have like the best support system. Like I wouldn't be here, you know, mainly for them, because I would have had to work and like, you know, contribute to society and like and pay rent, pay bills. But I had people just that had a belief in me, maybe as strong as myself, you know, and they knew I could get there and do these type of things and achieve certain stuff. And so that's why I'm so grateful for everybody. You know, it's really crazy. And that's why I talk about my team, and I'm not talking about Team Alpha Male. I'm talking my coaches and all like the people that believe in me, and, you know, they're willing to help me because, you know, they're investing in me. They're not really investing in me, but you know what I mean? Like they'll invest their time into me and help.
Investing into you.
You know, but stuff like that. And that's why I think about all these people that do so much for me, and I'm like trying to repay them in like a way, you know, that makes it that it was worth their while and worth their time. You know, I don't want to waste anyone's time. And so that's why I do everything like 100% while I'm I'm all in with fighting, because I do have regrets in wrestling and stuff. Why I wasn't a state champion, a national champion, because I wasn't doing the things I should have done back then, and that's why I'm 100%.
I see like two things with you. It's like your professionalism's like top notch. Like you are the outside, you are a pro. And I mean that in a pro, like obviously you're a pro fighter, but I think there's levels to any career that we're all in. Some of us treat like we're kind of amateur in it, or some are true pros and go to another level. And you are a pro fighter. Everyone I talk to is like, you show up and you are all in. So it probably gets your coaches to even give you more, because it's like you're pushing them. So I see you as a pro fighter, and I see I lost track of the other thing that I was going to say, but ultimately, like, you are one of the few, like, you're inspiring into your craft of actually being a professional, and not just you get paid to do it, but you are all in, into the days that you probably can't even get out of bed, and you're just like, I'm showing up. I got to clock in. I got to clock out. And it's something I've taken into my career here as a, truly wanted to be a pro entrepreneur. Like I look at myself as that, and it's like, what does that mean? And that was kind of the second point I just remembered. Your level of honesty with yourself, super impressive. Like how you can like get honest with yourself. Like in that fight with Burgos, like, yeah, you could, 99.99% of people is like, dude, this isn't out. You should take this out.
Okay.
And you were like, there was a level of like, you can, but to yourself that you can't take that out.
No.
How your level of honesty, where does that come from? Is it like because sometimes when we're honest with ourselves, we're really hard on ourselves. Are you just able to just really be honest with yourself, or are you pretty hard on yourself internally?
Yeah, no, I am like, I'm my worst critic too. That's for sure. Like no matter what, like even you talk to my coaches and they have this running joke, like I'm like Eeyore, you know what I mean? Like always, but I feel like I'm like a realist. I'm like, it could always be better. Or like even with certain performances, I knock someone out. I'm like, oh, that was shitty. And they're like, what are you talking about? Like, all this type of stuff. But no, you're right. Like I'm really hard on myself, but I'm really just like honest, like how I feel, and like, and I think about everybody too. So maybe that's like I don't know where I'm going with this, but it was just, it's hard for me. I think of what other people have put into things and stuff. So it's, I don't know. It's just,
yeah, it's just you have that skill. Sometimes it's hard to see what we have, and I just from the outside looking in, like your level of honesty, I think it's a superpower, and being able to like push to a whole new level. Yeah, it's cool. So you're 18-2. You are number 3 in the feather.
Yeah, I was tied. I think they just moved me back to 4, but who knows what happens tomorrow. Maybe I'll go back to 3.
Those rankings are kind of all over the place. So you're 4 in the featherweight in the world. There's talks of you're on a 5-fight win streak, best in the division right now. Volkanovski just won, beat Holloway on the 3rd fight. There's that, which you're the most deserving sitting there, and then there's this Yair Rodriguez situation. What do you see as next?
I feel like if it's up to me and just by merit and everything, like I'm the true number 1 contender. I feel like Volkanovski and I match up really well. I think the fans want to see that. I feel like, or actually I don't feel, I know I'm the most powerful featherweight in the world, in the division, and it shows with the stats.
Yeah, you have the most knockdowns.
And it's like I know that Volkanovski's great. He's the pound for pound number 1 in the entire UFC. He's also the featherweight champion. But man, I feel like my power is something else. Like I'm better at wrestling. I have the power to put him away or completely change the outcome of the fight, hurt him at any moment. So I feel like I am next in line. I'm the true number 1 contender. So I'm just kind of waiting to see what happens. I know a lot of people are talking about he's going to be out for a little while. Might go up to 155, and then Yair. They had that fight, him and Ortega, and they were talking about the winner of that could be the number 1 contender. But unfortunate, in that fight, Ortega got injured, and it was Yair won, but it was in the first round due to injury. Other than that, he's a great fighter too. But I just feel like if people want to have us fight for an interim title, I'm down for that too. I've never said no to a fight. I want it to be for an interim title, or I want to fight Volkanovski. I just truly believe I'm next, and I can't really. I'm not fighting anyone else, unless it's for some type of belt, and then we'll kind of take it from there.
I mean, you've earned that right to say that. I've seen your whole career. You haven't turned down a fight. You haven't been political. Mm-hmm. You've said, if they want to fight, I'll fight them. And 18-2 here, gone with that record. So,
and I have even with those guys, it's I've only fought 2 people in front of me my entire career, and that was Ricardo Lamas and then Calvin Kattar. Everyone else I fought is behind me, and so I've said yes to everyone. So now I'm just I'm sticking to my guns, and I'm like, I want Volkanovski for the featherweight title, and if not, I'll fight Yair for the interim title.
It's exciting, right on the cusp. What is one? I always ask this to every single person. What is one thing that you believe that's not commonly accepted?
One thing I believe that's not accepted.
It's not like maybe in the mainstream, or how you go about viewing things, or a perspective or an opinion you have. I mean, whatever. It could be a number of things.
I don't know. I don't know if this is even off topic, but it's just I don't know. Maybe things aren't the way they seem. Like, as far as the UFC, I thought it would be this glamorous thing, and this is all I wanted. But then once I got in there, it's like you have to be in something for the long haul if you really want it, because it's tough. There's politics in everything, and as long as you're disciplined and you really want something, you can change. You really do whatever you want as long as you put your mind to it and you work towards it every single day. That's just been kind of but
I get that. I think a lot of people, I see one thing from you, it's like a level of commitment that's past your feelings, that's past your, you have a goal at hand, and you might feel a million different things throughout that process, but you are consistent and you show up and you are in it.
Yeah.
When you reach that goal.
Until I get there. And it's like, maybe I thought things would happen a lot faster, and maybe I didn't think things would take this long or be a certain way, but it just kind of is what it is, and you kind of got to roll with the punches and just keep on moving forward no matter what. And that's one of the things that I always tend to do. It's like, I just I let success be my noise, even though I have all these outside things coming in and stuff like that. I'm not going to sit there and be someone I'm not, with all the trash of fight, or trash talking that comes with fighting, and people do love it and stuff like that. But it's like, I think I can fight well. I don't know the people, what they're going through, so I'm not going to talk bad about someone I don't know. And so it's just so maybe I have had to go a little harder route to get there, because I haven't been this character. But at the end of the day, if I just win fights, then it'll get to a point where they can't deny me, and they'll have to give me everything that I want, and then everything will just kind of fall into place after that.
Makes your story so fucking interesting.
Yeah.
It's just whatever roadblock puts in, it's just all right, what now? How do I get past this?
Exactly.
It's incredible.
And that's what, if the door is shut, I'll try to go through the window, and if that's shut, I'm coming through the roof or the chimney. I'm doing whatever I have to do to get there.
It's incredible, man. Well, appreciate you coming on, sharing with me here, and everyone listening. You got, I'm sure, a bunch more fans after listening, and all of us on this ride with you, and look forward to seeing what's next. And obviously you've had your hero's journey of kind of your breakthroughs, but I feel like you're still in it. Mm-hmm. And there's, it'll be fun we'll bring you back on when, we'll bring that belt in here, and we'll do that, do the next episode when you're holding that belt.
Sounds good.
Awesome, man. Appreciate it.
Great to be here.